I assume that means I go.
Yeah, girl,
Yep,
you up. You're up.
I was
I
for that
I will
recording in
introduce
progress.
Lauren. Lauren is in our market up here in well, really Joco, because you're at the April Stevens team, Greater
Yes.
Raleigh market. And I don't know, what was it last month? Once a week or once a month we get together in Tina's office and have our all access pass. And we were talking specifically about just buyer processes. And Lauren sat down and gave this presentation. And I was like, oh, more agents need to see this. This is so smart. Because I think it's something that if you're an agent that went through COVID last month, once a week or once a month we get together in Tina's office. Oh, sorry. I was like, why do I hear myself? One second. It's terrible. Anyways, I just really enjoyed hearing her speak. I know you're a former educator. Love to educate clients, and I'm sure that's why you're good at slowing down the process and sitting down to coffee before showing properties. And now, honestly, post August 17th, I mean, we all got to get something signed to go anyway. So why not take some of her best tactics and apply them? So Lauren, I'll turn it over to you. I'm going to give you, do you need to share your screen? I know you had a slide deck when we presented before.
Yeah, I've got, and because I kind of have an advantage here, I was able to go through and amp it up a little bit just with some other things. So let's
Yeah,
see.
you should have sharing capability. So share.
Yes. Um, let's share screen two. There we go. Can you guys see that?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right. Okay, cool. Okay, so yes, like Anna said, I'm Lauren Wagner. I work with the April Stevens team, so EXP out of Johnston County primarily. And I am so like excited to be here. And again, it's like so flattering and honoring that I was asked to do this not once, but now twice. So I don't have anything like super like special to share other than the fact that I'm an obsessive compulsive, like neat freak, former stay-at-home mom that also worked in HR for a long time doing training and educating. So I kind of like decided to take all my room mom skills and mix it with my HR skills and kind of put it together. And I think that that is what has been able like to help me out when I sit down with buyers, and especially like that I'm actually a 2-year agent today is my
Oh.
2-year anniversary. So that's super exciting. And I've been able to find a lot of success with buyers. So um, love it. And let's just like get into it. So yeah, my whole shtick with people on the phone is obviously I work on a team. And so with the team, a lot of times we are getting leads on the phone. And after a lot of trial and error and a lot of just like being super excited that, okay, I got somebody on the phone, I'm just gonna go and meet them and I'm just gonna, totally like kill this and it's gonna be awesome and I'm gonna sell a house. And I realized that's just not the way it goes. So I started to really hone in and like really think about like where I had gone wrong and what I could do better. So I decided that I was really going to master those phone skills that led into getting them to be in front of me for coffee instead of meeting outside of a house. Because with buyers, especially, like once they see that house, I feel like we've all been there. They're just so laser focused on the house and they don't listen to anything that you're saying. So getting in front of them really has helped me win the client, win the contract, and away we go. So, and you guys can all see this, right? Because I'm not great at the computer stuff. Yes. Yeah.
Yep,
Okay.
yep, we can see you. Keep rolling through.
Okay, perfect. All right. So when I get that first phone call, I'm really big about identifying who I am right from the get-go. So let's say that it's like a lead coming in from Zillow. I will answer the phone literally with, "Hey, this is Lauren Wagner with the April Stevens team. How can I help you today?" I know it sounds a little formal, but I feel like with lead lines, especially, people don't realize when they're asking for more information that that actually is going to a real estate agent. A lot of times they just think that somebody like an AI bot is just going to start texting with them or chatting with them. So I really like to make it a point to let them know like, hey, I'm a real person. I'm a real estate agent with this team. How can I help you? And then the second thing that I do that I found to be really, really helpful on the phone is I go ahead and I say, in case we get disconnected, what is the best callback number for me to reach you at? Again, it immediately helps me to like go ahead and be formal right from the get-go, but I also want to get your information and I want you to know I'm a real person so that the AI bot or Zillow or Realtor.com is not going to just call you back. Um, and then I kind of start the conversation and I'll say, thank you so much. These Zillow lines can be really spotty sometimes when we get patched through, and I don't want to lose you. So tell me about the reason for your call today. I see that you're wanting more information on blah, 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 blah. And I kind of get into that with them. I start with just that actively listening, asking open-ended questions and paraphrasing their responses to show them that I'm listening. So, again, this is all very just like basic things, but I feel like all these like tiny little pieces have helped me build the rapport with them and want them to actually sit down and meet me. So, if they're telling me, hey, I really want a really big backyard and I want 4 bedrooms because we're having another baby. I just am repeating a lot of this back to them as I'm writing it down, ensuring that they know that I'm listening to them. So tell me why that big backyard is so important to you. You're having another baby. That's amazing. Oh my gosh, I have an 8-year-old and she's starting 3rd grade, and it's just crazy how time flies, just really connecting with them on a personal level. And so then the next piece of that is okay, wait, there we go. Okay. I go ahead and oh wait, no, I went too far. Sorry guys. This is all new to me. Okay, yeah, there we go. Start asking simple questions. So, now that I kind of know what they're looking for, I've repeated it back to them. I go into asking some deeper questions that instead of asking them if they're working with a real estate agent, I start to ask some questions around that to see what I'm going to get from them. So I'll ask them, how many homes have you looked at? Were you visiting open houses? How were you seeing those homes? I'll even ask them, hey, so tell me about your real estate agent. What's their name? Or I'll say, tell me about your financing. Are you guys using a conventional loan? That kind of opens up the conversation between me and them over the phone, where either, at that point, it's like, yeah, I've already, we've started working with an agent and, we saw all those homes through such and such. Or, yeah, we've just really started. We've been window shopping. We've been going to open houses. It helps me to open that up without it feeling so cringy, because I think like for all of us, especially now, showing our value needs to be in a way that's softer to our buyers instead of just coming right at them like a vulture and just swooping up and taking them. So I feel like this has really, really helped me to be able to get them to start opening up to me about what their financing is. Some of them will be like, I'm sorry, what? What's a conventional loan? Oh my gosh, great. That's amazing. You called the right person today. I'm so glad we connected. I work with all these local lenders. And it just helps you go down the rabbit hole to start, the back and forth and the ping pong. So when we get off the phone, I'm immediately sending them to my top 2 lenders and starting a conversation in a group text. So again, this all kind of like segues into the value that we need to provide. A lot of times, as the conversation is going, I start to like talk a little bit more about, so you told me that you love a farmhouse, you want a 4 bedroom, 3 bath, you're having another baby, and a big backyard is super important. It's so crazy. I was just at Anna Powell's broker open last week, and she's working with this phenomenal local builder, and he's offering, 10K in closing costs right now. And a lot of these houses really meet that criteria. I would love for us to sit down and talk more about this. It just allows me to show like, hey, I'm out in the community. I'm seeing the houses. I'm driving by every day. I'm your girl. You want to work with me. Um, and so with that, it just really helps us to like transition. And I usually just ask them for 15 minutes of their time. I would say 99% of the time, coffee is definitely the way that we end up. I feel like it just allows everybody to just kind of like take a breath, not be nervous, not have jitters. So that is the first thing that I'll suggest. Sometimes that doesn't work. As far as like scheduling and things like that, but I will get in front of them for 15 minutes at my office, whatever it is, to make sure that I am that they understand the expectations before we get started. And then the last thing that I do with the phone is I just end it with, I'm gonna send you a calendar invite, so you can like get it scheduled. I know everybody these days lives and dies by their calendar, especially with you having another baby on the way. So I make sure to take that piece back in, whatever their emotional part of this house search is, and then tie it back in. And then I'll say to them, I'm also going to text you a picture of my digital business card so that you can put a face with the name. And I feel like that really helps people kind of feel more at ease. Now they know, okay, this is the person that I've been on the phone with. And I feel like it's really helped when it comes to that piece on the phone to get them in front of coffee. Um, and so then, I'll go ahead, I send the calendar invite. At that point, we've been texting. I've sent them, some local lenders. I've already started a conversation with those lenders, especially if they've told me in the phone conversation that their timeline is between 0 and 3 months, so that is all expectations that they have going into our meeting, which I try to schedule always unless their schedule doesn't allow within 24 hours of being on the phone with them. Um, so once we get to coffee, I obviously want to establish the expectation. I want to set the expectations for them. I want to also outline what my role is as well as what their role is in all of this. And I feel like that's really important, especially now, is to really just be like, hey, I'm sure you've turned on the TV. So let's just talk about it really quick, like, because we all have to like play a role here. We've got to work as a team, and I want to be that partner for you. But this is what I'm going to need from you. So I'll go ahead and I've got so I do, can you guys see this? Okay. I do these folders. And so they're like a clear folder. I also will use like April Stevens like folders too. It just depends on, what I've got like fully ready and stocked in my car, because I keep all of this because you just never know what's going to happen day to day. So in the folder, I give it to them, and I'll give you guys examples of things that I put in there, but I've got like a work with me brochure. I have the working with real estates. I have a copy of the single property buyer broker agreement. Really dive into that, outline that. I feel like this is helpful to give it to them up front. I've seen over the last couple weeks, especially because a lot of times once we've already built that rapport, they don't want it to necessarily go with just the silly one day. They're like, let's just make it official. Like, I like you, you like me. Let's just get it going. But if that is not the case, that single broker agreement is really great for us to do that test run with each other to make sure we're a good fit. And then I put like a highlighter and a pen, my business card, and then a whole bunch of information, including like a vendor list for getting started. I also have a lot of materials on a roadmap, what it's going to look like to work, to buy this home throughout this process. Um, and then I also do this one thing at the very end that I go ahead and I talk about the buyer net sheet. So I've created, which essentially, I mean, I haven't created it. I can't take credit for it because it's really just a seller net sheet that I've just taken and put into a buyer net sheet to establish like, hey guys, like this is what we're looking at up front. I want to be fully transparent with you, and I don't want you guys to have any surprises, because this is the biggest purchase of your entire life. I want you to know everything that goes into it. I talk a little bit about the thing that we're not supposed to talk about, and I just kind of say, I'm going to do everything in my power to get what we need to get you to closing. And in the event that that does not happen, or we just can't make it work, we are going to pivot. But I want you to know what everything is and what it looks like. And I usually try to give them a couple different scenarios. So I'll give them a scenario if I know that they're looking between 3 and 400, right? I can break that out into 3 pieces. This is what this is going to look like here. This is what it's going to look like here, so that they have an idea. And then I also, again, this is just because, I'm a wacko. And one thing is like, if you're not following, there's a woman on Instagram, I'm obsessed with her. And, she's just somebody that like I found on the gram that really just like spoke to my heart, and it's selling the suburbs. She's out of Chicago. She's incredible. And her whole thing is marketing, sphere of influence, and like just personalized touches between buyers and sellers. So I decided like I could totally do that. And so I do a buyer kit. And this is like something that I talk about after we've talked about the paperwork. So then I like pull it from like, I usually have it like kind of to the side and I'll pull it up and I'll say, okay, so this is for you. And in this, I give them a whole bunch of fun swag. So with the April Stevens team, April's always doing like fun things like this. So this is like a koozie that you stick in the sand. There's some sunglasses and a chapstick in here, and it's got all this, like all of the brand on there. So I go ahead, I'll put something from the team in there. Then I also do like a little notebook that they can have to make little notes as we go along. Um, I get these little tape measures. This is actually 6 feet, this little guy. So it's actually like better than it looks. And I explain to them, hey, maybe you're moving out of a house and you're moving into a house and you want to make sure your couch fits, or we've never done this before. But you probably want to start looking at appliances after we get through the due diligence period and we know, like, hey, this is the house for us, and maybe you want to pre-order a fridge or it goes on sale, but we need measurements, right? So I just talked to them a little bit about that. I've got like a flashlight in here. And that gives me a good segue, especially with a first time home buyer, to talk about like crawl spaces. Because a lot of people, especially my out of town clients, are like, huh, what? A lot of them are coming from California right now and Arizona and that area, and they're like, they just don't understand. So this is a good way to kind of, again, show my value without it being super expensive. I bought a pack of like 40 of these for $20 on Amazon. And then I'll do just like a little hand sanitizer. So it's nothing crazy, right? But you give somebody something in this like swanky little bag that's got clear, view here, and it looks all bougie and it's not. And then I make a sticker in Canva. It took me like 3 hours to do that, by the way, because like yeah. And they love it. Like people just think it's the greatest thing ever. So by that point, like we've been on the phone, we've had the first touch. My second touch is I'm sending that text to them with my digital business card. Third touch is, getting them hooked up with a lender, maybe starting that group text if they're in a position, that they are able to kind of take that on. And then again, now we're in this fourth touch with we're sitting there, and by that point, we're typically scheduling appointments and they're usually signing buyer agency agreement. And so I just feel like all of that to say, it's just like making them comfortable, right? And I think that's just what people want to feel is comfortable. Like I'm about to hand you a lot of money and I need to know that you're going to protect that investment and you're going to do this job. And from that first phone call to this, it really just assures them like, I got you. And really, I mean, so the next slide I've got is just examples of different things that like where I get this stuff. I will say that, I forgot to show you. So Market Dwellings, I don't know if you guys are using that website, but if you're not utilizing it, it's amazing, especially for open house stuff, different pop-bys. I buy these keychains and it says, home is, where the heart is. And on the back, it allows you to customize it. So I've got my name and phone number, and then I've got, the April Stevens team by EXP. So that I feel like people really like love that because I'll be like, okay, here's the keychain that we're going to put your keys on. And I'm so excited to get started. And I know it sounds really cheesy, but people, I feel like they really love that. And they like just want to know that somebody's got their back. So I feel like that has worked really, really well for me. Again, I buy the bags on Amazon, the flashlights, Amazon. I mean, pretty much all of this is either from Amazon or, I buy it at the Target dollar spot too. So just whatever I can get my hands on, I get. Yeah, and here's just so this is kind of some examples of the materials that I'm giving them in my buyer presentation. So a little bit about benefits of having not just me, but the April Stevens team. So being that I'm a team agent, being that I was just I really still am a new agent. I'm 2 years in, but I've been able to, fortunately do quite a few transactions to get quite a bit of experience under my belt. But I want people to also like, I want to capitalize on the fact that you're not just getting me, you're getting this team that I have behind me. And I think that that's really important to like focus on with your client I come with not just this experience that I have, but this resume is also packed full with over 100 years of experience between my team leader and all of the agents that, are on this team and our transaction coordinators and marketing and everything that we're like pouring into you as the client. And all of that is included, right? If you're working with me. So I really like to play that up. Um, so I made these brochures in Canva. I use like a trifold template. I talk again, a little bit about us, can't wait to connect with my information. So I segue from that and then I have them open the brochure and then in the brochure is just like a little snippet about me. And so I'm able to kind of talk to them a little bit about me because I don't want to make it too much about me personally. I want it mostly to be about me, Lauren, the realtor, and me, Lauren, the realtor with the April Stevens team. And then here's a copy of my buyer net sheet. So again, guys, I took the seller net sheet, I put it into a template to make it for a buyer net sheet. So on this sheet, I've got, I don't give them really any numbers, obviously, for lending because I'm not a lender. But I will kind of talk about, this is what you can be expecting on average again, and I make sure to let them know. And I've got a little disclaimer on this sheet as well. You don't hold me to these numbers. These are rough estimates. And I kind of explain it to them in the sense of when I worked in a doctor's office, you have health insurance, right? So when you walk into the doctor's office, yes, you have health insurance, but sometimes your health insurance doesn't cover everything that you're, getting done. So in the event that your insurance doesn't, here's what you're responsible for. So I kind of like to have that same conversation and I give that example of this is all rough estimates up front. Here's what a home inspection is going to look like given the square footage, given the inspector. Here's a range, right? Here's what we're looking at if you want to get a radon test. Here's what we're looking at, roughly on moving costs. I usually typically, if they're moving out of state, I kind of try to like give them a couple scenarios and ideas of like, hey, there's great systems that you can use and save quite a bit of money instead of using, a moving truck to bring everything here. Let's talk about pods. Let's talk about TaskRabbit. Let's talk about these things so that you are understanding so you can make an informed decision. And I've already put the information in front of you and I'm giving you that. And so that is kind of how I have that conversation with the buyer net sheet. I also do talk a little bit about the numbers as far as seller paid concessions. And I explain to them how that's going to look on, their final closing statement. And I also tell them, it is my job and my responsibility to advocate for you to get you what you need to get to the closing table. In the event, again, that does not happen, and we're gonna talk about lender situations, we're gonna talk about seller paid concessions, we're gonna talk about all of this. But in the event that none of that goes my way, this is what we're looking at. And I want to make sure that they're comfortable with that. And that, because I'm not going to deter people, any which way. I'm going to do the best fiduciary duty to them. I'm going to show you whatever house, however house. I'm not calling every single 5 seconds. Are you paying compensation? That's all I've heard. And it's like, I want them to understand I'm going to do my job and I'm going to have that conversation with the agent and we're going to work together and I'm going to do my very best. Yeah, and so that's a little bit about my buyer net sheet. I also like to kind of like do a last little segue into like what my clients are saying about me. I used to just like do a very simple testimony like this, just with like, the testimonies that come in, through our Google reviews. And then I listened to a podcast and that podcast really like kind of opened up my mind to with all these changes, right? Even though they're not really new, okay? But to the general public, it is. So we really have to like capitalize on really selling ourselves in a way that is more than just somebody that I worked with left me a really nice quote. I really go into it further. And I ask, questions.
Wow.
Okay, I thought somebody was asking a question. So yeah, I just go into these and I say, what's the problem? If I did nothing, what would have happened? What the solution was, and then what the result was. So, and honestly, I mean, I've taken a lot of time recently to kind of go back through the last probably, I don't know, I've done 14 transactions in the last few months. And so some of them were like problems that I had never seen come up. I mean, obviously, I've got 2 years of experience, so I don't know that that's really fair to say, but every day is like a new experience. And I think that anybody in real estate would say that, even if they've been doing this for 20 years, like you just are always evolving and learning. But what I've done is I've taken these 4 questions and I've spent some time in AI, really like just taking the time to type out, like, here's what the situation was, here's what we encountered, and really like digging deeper into this to just pull out what the important pieces here need to be that clients need to hear. And that's really helped as well over the last, like, I would say 2 months with securing these buyers, to understand, like, listen, you're moving. I've been there. I've, worked with a lot of clients that move. I don't know why or how that has happened. It just seems to have fallen into place that way. I did not grow up in North Carolina, so I think it's helpful, that I understand what it's like to move to North Carolina and be like a fish out of water, and how different states do things than us, and how different escrow and title and all of these things and how they operate versus how we operate. Like, we're picking up the phone and speaking to an attorney. That is not the case in a lot of other states. So really like diving in to different scenarios that I've encountered and really honing in on their emotions, especially after I've talked with the phone and I know, where are we coming from somewhere? Are we moving from here in North Carolina? And then that I decide which different scenario I want to put in front of them so that they understand, like, this is where my value is with somebody moving out of state. This is where my value is with somebody that's contingent on a buy sell in North Carolina, or whatever the situation may be, that I can kind of find similarities with them, and then that I resonate there with that. So, but yeah, that's it. That's the whole thing.
I love it. What questions do you guys have? I feel like I just massively taking notes along the way, even though I have some from your last time, Lauren. Any questions? Oh, so quiet. No questions? Lauren, what if anything do you feel like has changed in your language from 2 weeks ago to today? What have been some of the big talk tracks that you feel like are, getting you a lot of traction in a world where now things must be signed?
So I haven't gotten too much pushback
Mhm.
with at least a single property. I would say a lot more people are taking it slower. I used to be able to get buyer agency right away after meeting with coffee. I would say a lot more people, given that the language that we have to have around that number, and amount, people are like, let's just take it slow. I've also seen some pushback because, unfortunately, I had a situation last week with a buyer. I fell into a situation that they decided that they were going to use a discount broker referral program, and that agent was going to pay them to work with them, and wanted to know if I would offer the same rebate. And so no, I'm not. And so I have, and I know some people on the team have actually started seeing some of that as well.
Mhm. Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see what kind of spins up from this. I mean, one thing that I think is good to remember, because I have had a lot of agents are like, they're so worried about the discount agent, right? The buyer's agent that'll work for $2,000 or $3,000 or whatever, create a menu of services. I mean, we've had that on the listing side forever, and
Right.
take a lot of listings. I think one of the better things, and I think your presentation really solidifies it, that I heard from Kendall Bonner talking about was, where we would never put a listing in the MLS without getting a listing agreement signed, right? You would never go advertise a home without that agreement signed. And that really just the buyer side processes look very identical now to that listing side. And we've just been really good about, no, let's just get out there, do exactly what you said, meet at the house. They don't hear a word you say. So I think
Yeah.
just go down to the process will help those that are good at converting be even better. Because everyone's going to be forced to slow down.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I mean, I think that it's growing pains. And I think most of those growing pains are coming from the general public, just not thinking for so long it was this one way. And now it's like, and then being transparent with them. And I feel like when you're giving those numbers and those figures up, it's like a double-edged sword because then you're going to have some people that are like, oh, cool. Well, can you pay me some of that? Well, that's been happening forever. People have asked for stuff like that. That's not new. I just feel like, that I have seen a little bit of that.
Mhm.
Um, and, I feel like it again allows me to go into a conversation about, this is the value. I feel like before we'd get a buyer agency agreement signed and it would say whatever the number was. And people wouldn't see that number until the very end. But now
Right.
that the conversation is so much more forward, I think it's more like it's right there in front of them and they're freaking out. Some of them, not all.
Yeah, I agree. Any other questions from anyone on the call? Anything Lauren can clarify or just an aha that you had that you're going to take away and do something with? Like it's that back to school week.
Yeah, yeah, it is.
Right. All right. Well, Lauren, you're on social media. So everyone go give Lauren a follow, connect with her. She's up here in the Raleigh market. So if you have referrals into our market, keep her on your list. She's great to work with. And next week we will be back here, same time. Hopefully everyone will be out of summer mode. We'll be past Labor Day and rolling into a little bit of a schedule and some normalcy, which I'm actually craving and looking forward to myself. So, Lauren, thank you so much for
Thanks for
sharing
having me.
all of your thoughts and processes. We really appreciate it.
Thanks. Have a good day, everybody.
Everyone, have a great one.